The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Greetings and welcome back to the Personal Safety Show. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor and Stress 2 Logic, your host, and we were just discussing some trends and current things that are happening in the world of firearms. So, I did mention Ruger in the original part of the show. Let's talk about the history of Ruger. At the end of World War II, William B. Ruger resigned from his wartime employment with Auto Ordnance. That's the company that made the Tommy gun. And he established a small machine shop in Southport, Connecticut, and began a small venture that ultimately unfurled into one of the largest gun manufacturers in the United States. So he was exposed to his family collection of German-made pistols, which are absolute works of art, and along with his mechanical aptitude, was preparing the foundation for his future work. He attended Sunday school in Brooklyn at a historic Dutch Reformed church where the lively cultural scene seemed very much like Paris. So at the end of the war, Auto Ordnance had to shift its focus towards consumer goods since the demand for machine guns came to an end because of the war. Ruger seized that opportunity and he took a bid for delivering large quantities of parts for an automatic record player. And it formally founded the Ruger Corporation, although the journey was anything but smooth, and he reminisces, due to malfunctioning of their milling machine, unbearable squealing noises, and he was an old-time mechanic who fixed it. Let's talk about some court cases. New Jersey's federal judge follows the Supreme Court lead. An AR-15 ban is unconstitutional. New Jersey's ban on the AR-15 rifle is unconstitutional, but the state's cap on magazines over 10 rounds passes constitutional muster, a federal judge said Tuesday. U.S. District Judge Peter Sheridan's 69-page opinion says that he was compelled to rule as he did because of the Supreme Court's rulings in firearm cases, particularly the 2022 Bruin decision that expanded gun rights. So the Bruin decision talked about, look, we have to evaluate laws that are written in the times that they are written. So, for example, and this is me speaking, not any article or anything, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, that's great. We know there shouldn't be any laws against it. But as far as the word militia goes, militia are the regular people. It's not the army. So the founding fathers wanted regular people to be armed against an insurrection. AR-15s weren't weren't in the mix, but since government had similar firearms, it follows that AR-15s should be legal. Sheridan's ruling left both Second Amendment advocates and the state attorney general planning appeals. The judge temporarily delayed the order for 30 days, and he pointed to the high court precedent. Sheridan suggested that Congress and the president could do more to curb gun-related violence nationwide. It's hard to accept the Supreme Court pronouncements that certain firearm policy choices are off the table when frequently radical individuals possess and use these same firearms for evil purposes, he wrote. He added, where the Supreme Court has set the law of our nation, as a lower court, I am bound to follow it. I wish all judges were like that. The principle, combined with the reckless inaction of our governmental leaders to address mass shooting tragedies affecting our nation, necessitates the court's decision. 9 other states and the District of Columbia have laws similar to New Jersey's, covering New York, Los Angeles, and other major cities, including Chicago, as well as the sites of massacres such as the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting in Newton, Connecticut, where 20 children and 6 adults were killed by a shooter armed with an AR-15, one of the firearms commonly referred to as, I'm making quotes, an assault weapon. The judge also said bans on so-called, quote, assault weapons, end quote, are immoral and unconstitutional. They will continue to fight. The FPC, the Firearm Policy Coalition, will continue to fight forward until all of these bans are eliminated throughout the United States, said Brandon Combs, who's president of the Firearms Policy Coalition, or FPC, who was one of the plaintiffs. New Jersey's Attorney General Matt Platkin said in a statement that the ruling undermines public safety. He said, quote, "The AR-15 is an instrument designed for warfare that inflicts catastrophic mass injuries and is the weapon of choice for the epidemic of mass shootings that has ravaged so many communities across this nation," he said. So since he said it, it's got to be the truth, right? Wrong. I kind of smirked when I read this. The AR-15 is an instrument designed for warfare. That's what he said. Wrong. Completely wrong. The AR-15 was originally designed for the public. It was a modern sporting rifle that came out in the 1950s. Later on, the design was sold to Colt to manufacture a similar looking but completely different firearm called the M16. The M16 has a 3-round burst. Later versions have full auto. These are not available to the public in the United States unless there is heavy regulation, a ton of hoops to jump through, and typically it is a gun dealer who will own a fully automatic firearm for rentals, kind of like someone owns a hot air balloon. They'll come in, I had never shot a machine gun before. Okay, shoot the machine gun. That'll be $150, and then they walk away. So the AR-15 is not a weapon of war. I wish I could jump up and down and say that. It's ridiculous that they say it's a weapon of war, because it is not. Is it an efficient killing machine? Yes. Is it an efficient sporting machine? Yes. He also added, we look forward to pressing our arguments on appeal. Several challenges to the state assault weapons ban have cited the Bruin decision. A gun right group has challenged Connecticut's landmark 2013 gun control law passed after the Sandy Hook school shooting that bans, quote, assault weapons, including certain AR-15 style rifles and large capacity, or in my words, standard capacity magazines. A federal judge rejected last year a request by the National Association for Gun Rights to temporarily block the law while litigation continues, and an appeal of that ruling is pending before a federal appeals court. New Jersey has among the strictest gun laws in the country, particularly under Democratic Governor Phil Murphy, who has signed a number of measures into law, including the 2018 large capacity magazine ban at the center of this week's ruling. Illinois also is one of the most restricted gun law states in the nation. More measures he signed in 2022 include allowing the Attorney General to use state public nuisance law to go after gun makers in court. Murphy said Wednesday that he found the ruling concerning, and he was optimistic the dangerous ruling would be overturned upon appeal. For too long, these weapons, quote, which belong in a war zone rather than on a New Jersey street, have senselessly torn mothers, fathers, and sons, can you say sensationalism, away from their loved ones, Murphy said in an emailed statement. The state's assault weapons ban dates to 1990 and includes various other weapons, but Sheridan focused on the Colt AR-15, citing the plaintiff's concentration that the weapon in their court filings and the law specifying the rifle specifically. All right, other news. Best weapons for people to keep at home for safety. And let's dive in, see what this says, and see if I agree with it. A shotgun. Okay, not everyone can fire a shotgun. It is an extremely violent recoil. So while it's versatile and powerful, it's one of the most effective home defense guns, but depending on the build of the person using it, it may be or not be practical. Handgun, compact and accessible. There's a variety of ammunitions, rifles. You can have a long-range defense rifle. You can have precision rifles. A taser, a stun gun. Now, this article lists it as a non-lethal option. A taser and a stun gun is not non-lethal. It is less lethal. The difference is it may kill you. If you get tased in the eyeball, or you get tased in the genitals, or if you have a heart condition and the electrical stimulus interrupts your heart signal, it could kill someone, but not necessarily. So they call it less lethal, not non-lethal. Non-lethal would be if I threw a marshmallow at you. That's non-lethal. Pepper spray is portable. It says it's non-lethal, but again, it's less lethal. You spray someone and they have an asthma attack and they die, or they have other things going on and this just puts them over the edge. It does cause temporary blindness, difficulty breathing, and intense discomfort. I have been sprayed with pepper spray. I will tell you, it is not a walk in the park. I'll tell you exactly how it feels. Don't really do this. But if you were to turn your stove on and you have a gas stove and you put your face on the burner, that's what it feels like. It is ridiculous. Also, it is not instant. Nothing is instant, not even a bullet. But it takes several seconds for it to kick in. So if you're being attacked and you spray someone, they might still be attacking you for a little bit. It is a vasodilator, which means it dilates all blood vessels, mucous membranes. That's why people's nose and eyes run. It is not pleasant. Some people say baseball bat or tactical baton. You got to get in really close with those. Home security system. Don't tell my wife, she wants one. I am the home security system, and so is our not so nice dog. So, with that said, those are just some ideas for home protection, and I hope you enjoyed this.
I want my listeners to know that this is my dream, teaching people about safety. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for my listeners, I couldn't live my dream. So on behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to live my dream. And I also want to continue to live my dream, and I'm excited to continue to spread the word of safety. Recently, I began a new service as a conference keynote speaker. So if anyone would like for me to speak at future events, or if anyone knows of an introduction or would like to discuss how we can work with one another, I'd love to do just that. The keynote speaking website is www.stress2logic.com. That is STRESS2logic.com. If you're aware of any conference speaking engagements where you'd like to have me speak, I'd love an introduction. You can always share my electronic business card, which is Marcus Melnick, MarcusMelnick.com. Now, back to the show.
I'm going to segue a little bit and talk about the range experience that I had. And typically when you go to the range, everybody there is nice because everyone else has guns. No, it's the culture is very helpful, very nice. I can't tell you how many people I see who have incorrect grips or incorrect stances or aren't hitting the target. And I was teaching a student within the last couple of weeks. I was at a range, and the person to the left of me was a very, very tall gentleman. He was probably taller than 6'6", and he was there with his petite girlfriend, and they were shooting. And the tall guy had long, long, long arms. So as he was shooting, his arms were sticking out past the dividers that divide the lanes, and I was getting rained on with hot brass. Not a fun thing. It happens often at an outdoor range, especially when it gets crowded and you're along this bench and you're going to get rained on. I get that. When I go to outdoor ranges, I typically, and I go about once a year, I will get there early in the morning because no one else is there and I don't get brass rained on me. And by the time it fills up and gets crowded about lunchtime, I'm about done. So what I did was I went over to him, and either he didn't understand me, he didn't hear me, or he just didn't care. I said, hey, excuse me, I'm getting some rained on with some brass. Would you mind taking half a step back when you shoot? And that way the brass would basically bounce off the wall instead of bouncing off my face. He smiled, he nodded, and didn't change anything. So I ignored it. I just took it. I didn't want any conflict. But what would you do if you were in that situation? Please write into me. My electronic business card is Marcus Melnick at firearmmentor.com. And I would love to hear how you would solve this really minor problem. It wasn't a big deal. Nobody was getting hurt. It wasn't unsafe or anything like that. When I saw the guy, he was actually kept the gun pointed down range and had good trigger control, and he knew about the safety. I just don't think he was aware of where his brass was going, which speaks to a lack of situational awareness. Even when you're on the range, or I would even say, especially when you're on the range, you need situational awareness. What are you doing that's affecting other people? What are other people doing that is affecting you? So what would you do in that situation? I'm very, very curious. And I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but back to the Trump assassination attempt. Very interesting. A friend of mine who works in the industry has said, I don't think it was an AR-15. I said, why not? Because the media said it was an AR-15 style rifle, but not an AR-15. So it could have been a 9mm carbine that looked like an AR-15 that was not an AR-15. And he concluded that because the news media would have been all over it had it been an AR-15. I don't know if it was or it wasn't. I've seen the videos. I can't tell from the videos what type of firearm it was. And honestly, it really doesn't matter. Political violence, any violence is wrong. It was kind of funny. I went on Facebook and I said something like, I abhor any initiated violence. And I ended up deleting the comment, but somebody commented, well, as long as you're okay with self-defense. I'm like, dude, that is my whole business is based on self-defense. Why would you even post that? That was kind of stupid. This is someone who I knew and like. But I was like, wow, that's an emotional response right there. Of course I'm good with self-defense. I'm good with self-sufficiency. People need to be able to take care of themselves. Now, think about this. I anticipate the election will result in civil unrest and interruptions in supply chain, not dissimilar to the beginning of the pandemic when everyone ran and got toilet paper. Well, let me tell you something. My butt was clean because I was one of those people who got toilet paper. And my wife would, God, she still teases me to this day. We had toilet paper stacked to the ceiling. Yeah, but did we ever run out? No. Did your parents run out? Yes. Did we give them toilet paper? Yes. Oh, so we saved their butts too. And that's my little bit of humor in there. But seriously, I would encourage everybody to stock up on supplies, maybe a week's worth of toilet paper, paper towels, whatever you need food-wise, because it may be difficult to get supplies, to get food, and we all have to be self-sufficient. I, for one, don't think my wife would appreciate it if I went out and killed 4 or 6 squirrels and put them in a stew. She doesn't like that. She doesn't like eating animals. She doesn't like eating food that resembles animals. We were just in Lake Geneva a couple weeks ago, and we ate at an outdoor restaurant, Popeyes, which is very, very good. It's right on the lake, and it's a beautiful view. We sat outside. It was gorgeous. Food was great. And they have a smokehouse there. And we walked by the smokehouse, and they're roasting a pig. And I always thought that was always fascinating. The pig's head was on. It did not have any limbs on it. I'm sure it's in someone's Easter basket with a nice baked ham because the hams were not on it. But that stuff grosses out my wife. So I don't think I can go out, get some Hassenpfeffer, get some squirrel, get a couple birds, get a goose, a duck, because she would not eat it. She is going to starve if we ever have a collapse of society. And I say that in jest because I don't think society is going to collapse. I just think we're on a downward spiral. And hopefully we can come out of it. And why are we on a downward spiral? Is it politics? Maybe. Is it the pandemic? I'm going to say yes, because people really suffered psychologically with the pandemic. There is a feeling of learned helplessness. I can't do anything. I can't go out. I can't go to the movies. I can't even go to the grocery store. We're stuck at home. And I think that really had a huge impact on everyone's psyche. So I think As we recover as a society, things are going to get happier. At least that's my hope. And this presidential election is going to be quite interesting. What's also going to be quite interesting, and we're pre-recording this 2 days before it's going to air. I don't know if Vice President Harris is going to be picking a running mate in the next 48 hours, but if it is, then this comment isn't timely. We don't know who she's going to pick. Yeah, there's short runners on the list. There's people, there's Shapiro from Pennsylvania, and people call him the Josh, the genocidal person, something like that, which is very insulting because he's Jewish. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And then there's the senator from Arizona, who's Gabby Gifford's husband. He was an astronaut, rabidly anti-gun. So if you're a one-issue voter, look at your one issue, whether it's firearms, whether it's abortion, whether it doesn't matter. I want to encourage everybody to participate in the election. Now in Illinois, I know doesn't matter how I vote. The electoral votes from Illinois are going to be going to the Democratic Party. That's the way it's been my entire life. I don't see it changing today. But that doesn't mean you should not go out and vote, because you just never know. People may be fed up. People may be very happy with what's been going on. Either way, it is up to you to go to the ballot box. And just as important, and I learned this later in life, just as important as the presidential race, which gets all the hype, all the advertising, are also your local races. And I mean state down, state, county, local, even library. If you want information coming to your library, it's very important to vote for people who align with your morals and your ideals. Switching gears, I'm very happy that my demo reel for my speaking business at stress2logic.com is nearly complete. It should be done in about 2 weeks, which is fantastic. I'll be able to go and speak at various groups and have this demo tape just like a musician, although I have zero musical ability. One of the weird things that I have been seeing is a trend, and a friend of mine who's also a firearms instructor posted it on Facebook, that he is getting people that are coming to him after they've taken a 16-hour class who know nothing, well, allegedly a 16-hour class, who know nothing about firearms. They don't know how to load, they don't know the safety rules, and he is now getting people private lessons, and he's teaching them how to shoot after they've been in a concealed carry class. Some instructors expect their students to have extensive firearms training, but he makes the point that, look, the concealed carry certification in Illinois is almost verbatim the NRA basic pistol class, which is a basic class. I love it when people come to me who've never handled a firearm before because they don't have bad habits, meaning they don't cross their thumbs behind the slide to potentially get hurt. They know the rules, or they are introduced to the rules so that their muscle memory is accurate from the beginning, as opposed to holding a firearm, turning around, pointing at everyone and saying, "Hey, I got a question for you," which used to happen a lot, especially when I worked for other instructors who I would come in, swoop in at the end and do the qualification part. And when I did the qualification part, I cannot tell you how many people did not follow safety rules. I drill it into my people, down and down range, down and down range. And I make them repeat it 3, 4, 5 times. I also say finger off the trigger, so that they get it. It's one thing to talk at people in a large group. My classes are extremely small. I individually make sure that every student in my class knows the safety rules, the safety concepts. I don't really care if they don't get the word for word, you can only point a gun in a safe direction, or maybe they'll say, don't point the gun at anything you don't intend to destroy, which is just another way of saying it. That's the way the NRA says it. I say it the way I was taught it as a child. The other thing that I teach, and this is huge, is that you never handle a firearm in anger. Those are the words that my father spoke to me. But in reality, after I've studied the human stress response, it's don't handle a firearm when you're in an emotional state of mind. And emotional states of mind can be both positive and negative. A positive state of mind occurs right when you get off of a roller coaster and you've got the adrenaline dump. You've just had an absolute blast and you're not going to be thinking straight. Also, another positive event is someone in your family had a baby, or there's a religious milestone, a bar mitzvah, a christening, a baptism, anything, an exorcism. Okay, that I'm just kidding when I say that. But those are happy events. There's also unhappy events like job loss, divorce, breaking up. Breaking up is hard to do. All sorts of negative things, car accidents, people getting sick or injured. And those produce an emotional state of mind as well. So that's one of the things that I continually push. And the unspoken thing is, it also addresses potential suicide attempts. Because if somebody's in an emotional state of mind and they are suicidal, they should not pick up their firearm to use it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Tune in next week for another exciting or news-driven interview with another person who we are lining up this week. I don't want to make any promises, but it looks pretty good for next weekend, and I hope you guys have a safe week. Thank you for listening.
We have monthly concealed carry license CCL classes in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Dates can be seen at firearmmentor.com/classes. If you have a question, we can be reached at www.firearmmentorcard.com. That is our electronic business card, has all of our contact information and links in it. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the shooting range. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor signing off. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.